Hey everybody, how are you doing the morning after? Let's get back to local issues and to those things that we can, to some degree, control. I want to talk to you about the New York City Mayor's Management Report, the MMR. It used to be a big deal before the internet and the whole transparency movement and making information available online. This is a charter-mandated annual accountability and of the performance of city agencies. Again, it used to be a big deal, really not so much anymore, in part because some of it is just absolute folly. Every year, for years now, I mock the city's cleanliness rating. If you look at this year's book, you see it's like 96 or 93 or 98% of the streets in New York City are deemed clean. That's a joke. So the MMR is not what it once was. Perhaps we could say that about lots of things. But in the MMR, you will find these numbers. Lane miles resurfaced citywide. Get a good look at that, folks. You will never see that, or you won't see that again for a very long time. You will recall that in October of 2014, the mayor and I sat down for the first time in our new roles, and I pitched him 6 or 7 of Staten Island's priorities. Increasing the number of streets on Staten Island being resurfaced was one of those priorities. At the time, the mayor said to me, I might be able to get you back to that 1,000 lane miles resurfaced citywide, which is the sort of gold standard. You have to resurface 1,000 lanes every year, or over a period of years, your roads will fall into disrepair. Well, we had not, in the previous 12 years of the Bloomberg administration, we had not reached that standard like 8 or 9 times. And that was the main driver of why Staten Island's roads were so bad. If you don't keep up in good repair these roads, they begin to break down. You throw in 1 or 2 really bad winters, which we had, and that's why Staten Island's roads in 2011, 2012 started becoming really bad. And by 13, 14, they were literally crumbling. In December of 2014, I did an op-ed about a Marshall Plan. And again, this was driven by the fact that we underinvested in our roads for nearly a decade and a half under the previous administration. That effort, our effort, was embodied in a phrase that we came up with, Pave, baby, pave, and the mayor bought into it. I think the best thing the Mayor de Blasio has done in his tenure vis-a-vis Staten Island is the number of lane miles. We, and I will kind of put this back up there if I can, these are citywide numbers. You will not see this amount of lane miles. These are historic numbers. We have not resurfaced that many lane miles in a year, 2 consecutive years, 3 consecutive years, 4 consecutive years. It's unprecedented. You won't see that again, I'm sorry to say. The initial response with the mayor was, maybe I can get you back to 1,000 lane miles citywide. He then embraced Pave, baby, pave. We did a record amount of paving. Initially, the response from Staten Islanders was, wow, I've never seen this amount of paving. This is awesome. 6 months, a year and a half into it, that novelty seemed to wear off, and much to my chagrin, I started getting feedback from Staten Islanders that this is the worst Staten Island's roads have ever been. And for the subsequent few years, that is what I've heard. And I would bristle at that because I would, again, point to the numbers, point to the data. We have never resurfaced this amount of Staten Island's roads in a year, in 2 consecutive years, in 3 consecutive years, and 4 consecutive years. What are you talking about? This is Staten Island's roads are worse than they've ever been. What I've come to realize is that Staten Islanders were making a qualitative comment, not a quantitative, meaning although we had resurfaced during the de Blasio Otto years 42% of Staten Island's roads, that left 58% of our roads that now were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years worse than when we began Pave, Baby, Pave. So I would drive down Road X on Staten Island that had not been paved, and it was so horrendous, it was so terrible that it negated the good feeling I had when I drove down, roads 2, roads 3, and roads 4 that had been resurfaced. So the bad experience was so bad, it obviated or negated the good experience I've had. And that's just the reality. There's no getting around it. I couldn't squeeze out any more resurfacing than we did. We set records in 3 or 4 consecutive years. The likelihood that we will get to these numbers, again, nil. The likelihood that we'll get to that gold standard of 1,000 lane miles this year is really low. I can't tell you how many lane miles citywide are on Staten Island. DOT is expected to pay because they can't tell me because the budget is so much in flux. And, we passed this budget, the city council passed this budget with the mayor in late June. It's now about to be October, and they can't tell me that. That's how in flux the budget is. But we know the budget is bad and getting worse. So this is a long-winded way of saying 2, 3 years from now, you will see a marked decrease in all likelihood in noticeable and appreciable decline, even above your usual complaints about Staten Island's roads. We had 4 or 5 good years to try to get us out of a hole that was 15 years in the making. We needed a decade of epic resurfacing. We're not going to get that, and that means the cycle will go back and continue. And if you think Staten Island's roads are bad now, wait to see it in 2 to 3 years. I won't be the borough president. You could yell at someone else. I'm proud of the fact that we squeezed as much as we could out of an initially reluctant administration. I hope at some point down the road, when the budget turns, Staten Island's borough president and whomever that is and whomever the next mayor is realize the importance, at least to this borough, what smooth roads mean. And we had a good run, but I'm sorry to say that Pave Baby Pave is dead. 2014 to 2020. Rest in peace, Pave Baby Pave.